Welcome to the Tower of David Museum, and we're delighted that you're with us for this very interesting hour that we're about to have, all about the intersection between AI and art. So I'm thrilled that you're with us. I'm asking you all to keep your microphones on mute so that we can hear the speakers. And I'm also suggesting that you keep the view so that you see who the speaker is. we're just letting the other participants come in.
In progress.
And we'll very shortly begin. I can see that we've got people here joining us from all over the world. It's very exciting. So welcome to the Tower of David Museum and to the Digital Art Festival ZERO1NE. I'm delighted that you could join us from around the globe, and it's exciting to see old friends and new friends. We are here today with Yair Moss, the Artistic Director of the festival, together with Professor Doron Friedman, the head of the Advanced Reality Lab at the Friedman University, which was formerly the IDC, and Dr. Elad Yaron, artist, art historian, and curator. And together we will explore the uses of artificial intelligence, AI, as one of the newest tools in the art world, and examine the interesting hybrid space that lies between the natural and the artificial. So for some of you, I know that this is your first venture into the world of AI and art, and for others, you're here to learn more. And we're going to start really at the beginning. Yair. Yair is our artist. Yair Moss is our artistic director. In his words, he lives and breathes the intersection of art and technology, having got his degrees and experience within this field. And we're delighted that he is the head of the festival this year. It's been running since Friday. It's a 3-day festival. Yair, please can you tell us what is AI, and particularly what does AI mean when it comes to the art world, and what are we going to hear more about tonight? And if you can kind of bring that all together, that would be fantastic.
Okay, so I mean, it's a very, very large topic that we're kind of speaking about, artificial intelligence. I mean, it's a huge, huge subject. But maybe I'll start first. I'll tell a bit about the festival, and then I'll jump in to telling about continue with your questions. So ZERO1NE Digital Arts Festival, it's happening, the 3rd year. This is our last day for the 2022 edition. And it's really kind of tries to connect art, technology, myth, and magic, okay, together. So we have performances and lectures and installations from international and local artists. And last year, we really dealt with the ideas of artificial intelligence. And what we kind of looked at was okay, and who defines intelligence, right? And who decides who is intelligent and who is not intelligent. And this year we really decided to kind of focus on what does it mean artificial, okay? And when I say artificial, it's important to say that we're now in an age that's known in the academic world as what's called the Anthropocene, okay? The Anthropocene is basically the age of man, okay? We know that now man is one of the most dominant forces on planet Earth. So in fact, we have become a geological force, okay? It's like we're beyond just an organism on this planet. We can see it, by our influence on the environment and everything around us. So in effect, we can say that nature, right? Nature that hasn't been touched by man is this notion that kind of in a way cease to exist. We are interwoven with all of nature. So it kind of raises questions, what is natural and what is artificial? Okay, so this is kind of the concept of this year's festival. And now I'm really going to jump into into AI and its connection with art. So I'm just going to share screen here quickly.
Yair, just give us just a caption as to what is AI, just before you go into.
No, I'm going to touch it. I promise you, I'm going to touch it.
Okay.
Okay. So 1 second. Okay. Can you see the presentation? I mean, it's a very short presentation. So basically, artificial intelligence. Okay. So artificial intelligence, I mean, when we kind of think of it as our first kind of instinct, we think about this machine, right? That is kind of separate from us. And I think also in arts and media, it's not as if it is, I mean, now it's booming, but this is something, an idea that we've been dealing with for a very long time. I mean, Frankenstein, Frankenstein is a man-made machine. You know, it's a horror film, and, you know, we gave birth to this electrical, you know, mechanic human that, you know, is then chasing us around. And also Space Odyssey, Stanley Kubrick's 2001 Space Odyssey. There is Hal on the spaceship. I don't know which one of you have seen it, but basically this is also an artificial intelligence computer that takes control of the spaceship and tries actually to get rid of the human. Okay, so this is like a kind of the first imprints of like an artificial intelligence. Okay, so, and basically, I mean, we've seen articles all around, right? Is artificial intelligence, is it going to replace artists? Is it going to replace creatives? Is it going to replace us in our jobs? You know, I mean, there's all this discussion that is, I mean, in my eyes, is a very kind of zero-sum game, okay? It's like, are we going to control it, or is it going to control us, okay? So first of all, I think there's a lot of shades of gray. So I think we're going to kind of speak about it over here with Doron and Elad. So maybe really I'll start with just kind of the basics of AI, okay? So AI, I mean, it's been around. I mean, Doron will maybe perfect me. Yeah, he's got the details much better than me. But I mean, it's been around since the 1950s, okay? And it's basically AI, which is artificial intelligence in its definition. I mean, it's any technique that enables computers to mimic human intelligence, okay? And how does it do this? It does this using logic, okay? In programming, there's small sentences that, I mean, in code, it says if-then rules, okay? Which means if this happens, then do this, okay? So this is really kind of the basic idea of a program that is running with an internal logic, okay? Then in its idea, it's kind of, it mimics human intelligence, okay? And if-then logic is also something that we as humans, I'm sure we can relate to, okay? Now, after this, at a later period, I think at around the 80s or 90s, came what's known as machine learning, okay? So machine learning is kind of a subset of artificial intelligence. And what it does, it kind of really moves a step forward. And what it does is it includes statistical techniques, okay? So it includes statistical techniques to enable machines to improve at tasks as they perform more and more experience with these tasks, okay? This is like very obviously a deep mathematical kind of ideas, but I'm really kind of giving you the keywords. And within machine learning, there's what's called deep learning. Okay, so deep learning is actually a subset of machine learning, okay, which again, it's comprised of algorithms, okay, that allow the software to train itself, okay? So it's not as if we're giving it one task now to do. It's basically slowly teaching itself how to perform different tasks and become better at them, okay? And it becomes better, I mean, the main, I mean, there's a lot of different uses. For example, speech. I mean, we all know Google Translate, and also image recognition. This is something also very, very common that we know. But again, I'll jump back again to artificial intelligence. The idea is taking big amounts of data and making sense out of them, okay? And kind of filtering them out into something that we can, to a certain answer that we want to get, okay? I mean, it's a very, very wide topic. I mean, I'm trying to kind of give you just kind of the click bites. Now, in terms of art and artificial intelligence, I mean, now it's booming around us, but art and artificial intelligence have been around already for, I'd say, I mean, kind of mainstream art, almost like a decade, if not more. And even, I mean, there's earlier examples. There's Rafik Anadol, who works a lot with big data to perform massive installations. There is Memo Acton that also uses a large data sets and very kind of to create these poetic installations. Su-Wen Chen has been over 6-7 years creating performances where she's actually painting together with the robots. The robots are seeing how she paints and they're mimicking what she does, and then she mimics what the robot does. And basically, I think the latest boom that we're kind of experiencing is what's called text to image. Okay, and what is text to image? The text to image model. It's basically, there are a few different apps that perform this, but basically it gives us an ability, okay, to put in a text prompt and get an image. Okay, now there's a few different applications that do this. I mean, this is an example of actually of Midjourney. I'm going to show you one moment. First of all, one second. I'm going to actually, behind me, first of all, you see my background is, before we started the Zoom, 5 minutes, I did give me the Tower of David, a Van Gogh style. So maybe, I'm just going to share screen again. Let's try this in live. So you see basically how easy this is. Caroline, do you want to give me a text prompt? Any scenario in any kind of style of artist that you'd like?
So go for it. The Tower of David impressionist.
Let's try it again. Tower of David. Let's do at sunset. Okay, let's do it sunset. And maybe the Tower of David at sunset. Let's say, or let's even do this. An astronaut. Okay, let's go a bit far-fetched. An astronaut sitting in the Tower of David at sunset. A impressionist style. I'm trying to give it something a bit more complicated. Let's see what comes out. But just you'll see how fast and how kind of a simple this process is. Buffering, and what are we going to get here?
Oh, wow.
Okay. There we go.
So
very simple.
Just so that I'm clear here, once upon a time, somebody would have had to have drawn all of that. Then somebody would have had to have photoshopped a photo, but it would have been a person doing that. And now within less than 30 seconds, you just wrote that and boom, we've got a picture. The particular one that I love is on the left-hand side, where you can really see the Tower of David and somebody sitting on one of those stones that I could literally go out today and sit. Yes, exactly that one. On that stone and sit on it. But here we now have an astronaut.
Yeah.
So
basically, I'm just gonna quickly give אני באמצע איזה פגישה, אפשר אחר כך מנסור? קצת מפריע? לא עכשיו. So basically, what's happening over here is there is a very big, I mean, it's taking a huge data set of images from Google, okay? And it's combining them basically to produce the text prompt that I gave it, okay? I mean, this is a very simplified version. Doron, as my university professor, is probably squirming in his seat as I'm kind of simplifying this process. But basically, so I have with me, I mean, so obviously this kind of text prompt is raising a lot of questions, okay? I mean, it's raising now, first of all, maybe can anyone, be a creative? Can anyone be a designer? Can anyone be an artist And suddenly, you know, there's another question that is being raised. Maybe are the machines kind of replacing creatives in a way? Yeah. So I think there's some interesting topics kind of to discuss. So I really have Doron Friedman and Elad Yaron together with me to kind of think about these things. Are you guys here available?
Yes.
So just before we go into this discussion, which I'm really excited to hear more about, our friends that are with us here on Zoom, please keep your microphones on mute, but please jot down your questions, any questions, because we're going to have time at the end to be able to ask our speakers more. So please keep questions for the end. Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
so I'm just going to really start with pointing a question to both of you, Elad and Doron. So I'd like to hear about your first personal encounter with the artificial intelligence or machine learning and art and creative uses. Which one of you want to start? Elad?
Yes. Well, all of it is really recent developments. There were some artificial intelligence programs earlier on, like computer chats or many versions of it. But I was always playing with them and trying to ask them questions, but they were never sophisticated enough to even have worth of your while conversation with. So I was always intrigued, but during the last year and a half with the GPT-3, which is a specific code by a company named OpenAI, which I believe started this revolution. What we saw now in Yair's demonstration, DALL-E, that produces painting, is using this GPT inside of its code. So only recently it started being really interesting and showing us beautiful pictures. And I remember even at the first release, already we are using today something called DALL-E 2. But when they released DALL-E 1, it was almost nothing. They had a bunch of icons of an avocado chair. They wrote avocado chair, and they were in the size of icons on your desktop. Really nothing. But I was amazed and talking with people around me saying, there is a revolution coming and you don't understand it yet. They said, what is coming? I showed them these tiny pixels showing an avocado chair in different versions, and nobody really understood me. But now when we are seeing a year later, only a year later, what it's producing, it's quite amazing. The outcomes, and I think we still don't understand where can it develop in the years to come.
Thanks, Elad. Doron?
Yeah, hi. So I want to pay a little tribute to history here. So I'm a big fan of the new wave of deep neural networks who really have, we do have a lot of hype, but there's a real breakthrough in contemporary deep neural networks in the way that they are able to generate content. But there has been, I think, fascinating stuff for many years. My favorite, when I was doing my PhD on automatic cinematography more than submitted 20 years ago or 18 years ago. And my guru was, I would say my hero was Harold Cohen, who was working on an automatic painter since 1972. Amazing stuff. And so I think I can give you if I have a minute, maybe I can share a story that will illustrate why I think this is interesting. So for me, it's, a lot of people are today excited about human level AI, but for me, it's always been like an alien intelligence. Okay, so AI for me has been intelligent for many years. Of course, now it's getting better, but in chess, it's been better than us for many years, et cetera, right? So, but it's alien. It doesn't think like us. Okay. So, for example, when I was working on automatic cinematography and specifically about editing, and we had these micro rules. There was no stochastic deep neural networks, no statistical machine learning. By the way, it's not if and then rules like Yair Moss explained. It's something different. But anyway, so you have a system of a few hundred of rules. Now, unlike today's AI, you can understand these rules. Each rule is human understandable. But once you have even 100, or let alone a few hundred or a few thousand rules start interacting with each other, the amount of possibilities is combinatorically explodes. So you can get a lot of unexpected stuff, okay? And then I showed this, I was doing computer science and I presented it in the film school in Tel Aviv University. I take off one rule and immediately the lecturer says, this is like the experimental genre by, I don't know, this director in 1975 in the experimental movie, The Rope, okay? So, when you get these moments that you see something and you see that the AI has found an interesting solution, but it's a solution that you would never have thought of as its creator. For me, that's the so-called magical moment. And we've had that a long time ago. Now the tools are getting better and they allow each and every one of us to explore. And it is a significant revolution, but that's my first comment.
So maybe I'll I'll ask you another question, Doron. So kind of the entrance, So in a way, how exactly do you see the entrance and how it kind of is so explosive, the entrance of AI into the art world, or why is it so explosive? Kind of this combination between these two things that it hasn't kind of happened in a way before. So that's kind of my first question.
Well, I leave this question to you because you know that I don't understand anything about art. I mean, I have been working with artists for many years. I think I even won some awards as a collaborator, of course, not as an artist, but I really don't understand, where the line is between art and the rest. But, society and a lot of very, very obscure and all kinds of unexpected aspects of society have been governed or mediated by AI algorithms for a long time. Why is AI art being popular just now? I leave this question back to you and Elad.
So Elad, do you have something to say about this? Why do you think it's so explosive?
Well, first of all, it's not unlike a camera. There is this famous saying by Andy Warhol that he was painting and then he stopped painting and starting to use the camera because it's so easy. You're just clicking. So first of all, this is the first reason, and more so, the art world is actually always very traditional. They don't change the way so fast. For example, we don't see, even though we let AI into each and every part in our lives today, from the cars to when we watch Netflix, it will decide for us what to see, and et cetera, et cetera. In the art world, you don't see it in museums, and if you see it, it's in somewhat of an old-fashioned exhibitions. But that being said, artists really like ready-made. When you have something already made for you and you can talk about it, for example, this machine that produces pictures, artists will have a lot of times ironic views about it, trying to show the core of it, and they will be the first one to start exploring it and start playing with it and starting to see what they can get out of the machine and to show its true face. So in a sense, it's very common for artists to be the first one to use the tools and to explore them. And therefore, you see it in many, many places in the art world today, not by the common use of artificial intelligence made to make our life easier or better or anything else, but to explore what is the deep meaning of deep learning.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's like one aspect of this explosive situation, and the other like aspect is everybody having the ability and using these tools, right? So maybe I'd ask you as a curator, yeah, and someone that's been in the art world like for many years, what do you think are the effects, yeah, of this tool? I mean, is it negative, positive? I mean, are creative people going to be replaced? What do you think is going to change in the foundations of the art world in this sense?
How concerned are you about AI and art as compared to the elections in Israel and the United States?
You could say the same thing about cameras easily, how they are going to replace all of the painters. Painting survived cameras. And today we can have a historic perspective about the first photographs and say, wow, they look old-fashioned when you put people on hangers that they wouldn't move for several minutes so the old cameras could capture them. In a sense, this is what we're dealing with today. It's only the start of image generators. And we are seeing something that in some years maybe will come back as a retro of something very naive in a sense. But then again, more and more people could play with creative thinking. And for example, if somebody will want a simple logo for their company, maybe they will try several times with this, and some of them will be good at it. But always there will be people who studied it and tried many, many things and gain control over the machine. And today, everybody knows that they can take their own picture easily, but if they, for the wedding, want a very good photographer, they should pay someone to do it. So I'm not afraid that creative people or people who know how to use these technical tools will be replaced. Later on, I will say what I am afraid of, which is actually the common users and not the artistic users. They are cynical and nice and interesting. The artistic users.
But just basically as another tool, as another language,
yes.
kind of in what you were saying. Yeah.
Another media, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Medium.
And the question for you, Doron, or maybe also you have like interesting answers for this, Elad, but what do you think are kind of the possibilities that lay within this tool?
Well, it depends if you're talking about short term and long term. So I think right now we're really in the middle of there is a real explosion. It's important to know. I mean, there's a lot of hype, but I belong to the ones who think this hype is kind of justified in the sense that it's not just one discovery. It's a lot of discoveries feeding on each other. And it looks like there's still a lot of fuel for this current wave. At some point it's gonna end up, but right now we're looking at quite a few years where these things will, I think, get better, right? And there's a huge effort, 150 new academic papers every day that, well, not about AI art, but about AI that are kind of considered worth reading. So it's, for me, the interesting question is, how far will this wave take us? Is it going to be able to have, I'm interested in generative text recently, not just visual images, but you can generate texts. They're kind of amazing. but it's usually cherry picking and relatively short text. Can I have a full conversation with these guys? You know, not yet. I feel after some time, you feel that it's wrong. You feel that it's like I said, alien intelligent, but also you see that they're missing a lot of stuff. Now in art, well, again, I don't know about art, but I definitely see now efforts at creating automatic movies, complete movies. I don't see a reason. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's super, super difficult, but there's tons of incentives, you know, for large companies and a lot of individuals. So I don't see why we should stop with a still image. And once you can get photorealistic movies, I think it's already amazing. We're doing a lot of VR. So for us, it's kind of, you know, the holy grail is that it's like a dream, but, you know, you just imagine that you're kind of semi-conscious and you just say what, you know, start hallucinating and the world starts generating it, the AI generates what you're talking about, or maybe directly picking up your thoughts or whatever. That's what we used to do in the past. So all these things to some extent are going to be possible.
Nice. I will take a counter view, not as an artist or curator, but as, let's say, an art researcher. And I will talk about maybe the meaning of a world where so many algorithms are controlling the way we look at the reality, writing text, showing us images and videos. I'm thinking about a text actually when I'm doing it from the 30s. Many of you might have heard about it. It's by Walter Benjamin, the age of the work of art in the age of mechanical reproduction. And in this text, Benjamin says that in this age of mechanical reproduction, there is a huge change in the way we should perceive art, in the sense that until today, we used to look at paintings, maybe pictures. They were still, and one person could stand and look at them. And today, almost 100 years ago, you could screen a movie to, well, everybody around the world if you want to and if you can. And it's a whole different way or method of seeing art. And he concluded by saying that there are two possibilities in his age. Either the tools of reproduction will be controlled by the already powerful people who will maintain their power, or they will be given to the people. And if they will be given to the people, people could create a much better, they could use this tool in an amazing way and create a much better society, something like that. Now I'm jumping 100 years forward, and I'm saying, first of all, Benjamin wasn't so wrong, as I have this machine in my hand, creating video and sharing in the social network every thought I have, and suddenly, I don't know if revolutions were great, but some revolutions were indeed starting due to this, to the age of mechanical reproduction. But now we have a new age of algorithmical reproduction, let's call it like that. And I think it's a huge difference as well from what we were used to, and it will take us some time to understand what is the meaning of being surrounded by texts in newspapers, for example, by curating when we watch Netflix and it decides for us which content we are better watching right now, or in images created in a generator that were taken from this bank of images, let's say a scan of Google. And it takes us time to understand what is different or interesting about these pictures. I will give one example, not to steal the conversation, but let us think about this image bank that that is producing the new images. So this process of machine learning was given this data, and let's say we have 3 different data sets. One of them is the World Wide Web. It has everything, uncensored at all. There is a stable diffusion, which is one of the tools that is used to show to generate images, and it's quite open. So it have in it kind of everything, or at least everything history put on the internet. So there are much more pictures of males. If I will write doctor, show me a doctor, immediately I will get a picture of an actor playing a doctor, probably for a photo, and it will be a male, and it will be, so it's something very specific. Then a different company, OpenAI, who built DALL-E, what Yair showed us earlier, worked very hard, so their tool will be more, let's say, up to date. If I will write doctor, I will see 3 women and 1 man. Then again, if I will write American president, I will also see some women in the outcome. And if I will write, you know, an authentic cowboy from the 1900s, 1800s, I will see an Asian person. So it's not working just fine today. And now think about a third tool with an image data set from China. When they will decide these pictures are not okay and you will not see them and we want you to generate something specific. So this is just one example how these tools will control the way images, all of the images surrounding us will look in the future. I think this is
not only images, I
interesting.
think in general content.
Text, yeah.
From text to the movies we see. I think this is an important message kind of to get out, yeah. That basically these are massive, I mean, all of us, yeah, everyone here in the conversation is encountering this 30, 40, 50 times a day, right? When you go to Google and you search, you get results that are also basically connected and unique to who you are and to the location you're at. But it's very important always kind of to remember this. And this is also, like Elad is saying, this is, I think, a very big effort of certain forces within the artificial intelligence world. It's the whole notion of what it means to be biased and unbiased, right? So this is also a very big issue. Now I have another question that actually I didn't give you this ahead, yeah. So this is like improvisation, but my question, or I think one of the interesting questions for me is, can we call the machine creative? Okay, I mean, are we ready to call it art? Are we ready to call it a creation? You know, I'm interested to hear it. Maybe Elad, really like you from the artistic side, and Doron, kind of how you see it from the more kind of technological side. I mean, Doron also, yeah, you called it like alien intelligence, yeah. So kind of, yeah, as a being on its own, in a way.
I can comment on that first. So, yeah, my take, and maybe I'm wrong, and I'll be happy, you know, to discuss it. But that was my PhD was dedicated to that question, more or less. I was like trying to create an AI that would be creative and make movies, and everybody said that's impossible. Suddenly, 20 years ago, and I said, okay, let's see where we fail. You know, that would still be interesting. And my conclusion was that creativity is overrated, and that was my conclusion at the time. I'm open to criticism. Basically, from a mathematical point of view, it was quite simple to define. You know, there's, you know, in art you call it a brief, and then whatever falls in this brief is So for the AI to take this brief and to start filling it in wasn't too difficult, you know? It wasn't too difficult. The more you constrain it, the better it is. But I hear that artists sometimes are as well inspired by briefs. And of course, human artists can break the brief and say, well, I violated. But as I mentioned earlier, we could do that as well. You start with a system that tries to obey some criteria and you know, fall in within a brief, but then you kind of pinch it a little bit and you get something unexpected. So for me, at that time, I realized that creativity was just not an interesting question. But of course, I'm open to criticism and to comments. I'm sure it's not that simple.
I am not so far away from you. You know, since I'm a child, and I guess a lot ahead of my time, people and I always were encountered with the question, is it art? You know, my kid can paint it. Is it art? You know, all of the art of the last 100 and something years. Is it art? It's just a stone in the... And my answer is always, first of all, yes, sure, why not? I will grant the word art for whatever you want, but I would want to add a question, is it interesting? If it's not interesting, I don't care if it's art, not art, creative, not creative. If it is interesting, I don't care if it's produced by a human or produced by a machine or produced by... I would want to dive into it, and I am sitting hours talking with machines lately and seeing some amazing outcomes. Now, maybe it will be for artists and curators and people who are diving in it, and sometimes regular people, to find these moments, you know, the diamonds that are worth sharing and talking about. And some of them will be added to the canon of great art. But the question, again, is not, is it art, but what is interesting to see and talk about?
Definitely.
Yair and Doron and Elad, my question is, who owns that art? Who's the artist? Is it the person who's the coder? Is it you? Yeah, you asked if it was the machine that was the artist. Who owns that art that's created?
So first of all, I think this is a very, very hot topic because, for example, OpenAI or DeepMind or all these people that are developing these artificial intelligence, they are what's called scraping the internet for data. Okay, so it's like when you go to Google, right, and you search for an image, boom, you'll start getting pages and pages of images. So what these but before even they train algorithms on huge data sets. In these data sets, they take lots and lots and lots of images. Now, these images are also produced by people, right? And actually, none of these people are getting credit. None of these people, let's say you produce a piece of art, and I don't know, you do something with it. So actually, there's a very big topic on the fact that all these data sets are involved with so many people that are actually, that's it. They're like stripped, right, from their kind of creation because they're like a small pixel within a full cloud of information. So that's first, I think, I like a really serious topic that is kind of being discussed, or at least I'm kind of noticing a hot discussion about it. And again, I think kind of in a way, I'll just give a small anecdote, and then maybe Doron and Elad have another idea about this. But there is this famous Japanese, he's like an inventor, roboticist. He's called Masahiro Mori. And he wrote really interesting articles. And in one of his articles, I don't remember exactly the name, but he speaks about the Shinto priests, right? And the Shinto priest and the samurai ninjas, you know, and they would have the sword, right? And the sword would actually have its own entity, right? So they would bless the sword, for example. Or the Shinto priest, Now, this is still happening today when a new fire truck is kind of a out of the factory, or even it comes out of the factory. The Shinto priests come to bless the actual truck, right? So it's kind of giving it entity. Or in the Toyota factories, the robots that are making the cars, they give them names. So the workers give these big hand robot, they give them names, and they kind of sort of create a relationship with them. So in my mind, it's less this zero-sum game, and it's more this intertwined kind of mixed coexistence. It's very hard to put the boundary, is it sitting on this side or this side? So that's kind of my idea on exactly kind of where it sits, the creation at least.
Do we have any questions here from the audience? I can see that we've got artists amongst us. So if there's anyone who wants to ask a question here or completely disagree or to have
or even just say they're confused.
In the meantime, I wanted to ask you, Yair, we're sitting here in this ancient citadel that's seen the history of Jerusalem for thousands of years. We've got, walls dating back 2,800 years here, a citadel full of the history of Jerusalem. And yet you're the artistic director of ZERO1NE, a digital art festival. And why should it be here at the Tower of David? What do you feel that the connection is with the Tower of David? How does the Tower of David give you more than just a straight venue for the festival?
Not just a straight venue, a beautiful venue. It's important to note. So I think in a way, we're part of a much larger circuit of festival that is happening around the world that ready to deal with art and technology and kind of their intersection. And I think, when we were kind of brainstorming about this festival before its creation, so we saw that a lot of these festivals are these super, really high-tech, forward, future-looking festivals. Obviously with digital art, this is kind of the trend. But in a way, at the same time, we really believe that our twist in doing this festival in Jerusalem is, as much as possible, trying to get inspiration from ancient cultures, ancient wisdoms that have been before us, and looking at how, or maybe I'll jump even a step further, that I think we as human beings, we've always been fascinated with something beyond, right? I had this conversation with my niece like a year ago. We came out of synagogue and she's 7-year-old, and I asked, we had this conversation about faith, right? And I asked her, Nomi, what is faith for you? And she's like, it's when you know something out there, but you don't see it, right? And I think we've had that kind of since for centuries, for millennia, right? The humankind has been had this obsession that there is a higher force, right? That is kind of working things, whether it's kind of the pagans, but we've always wanted to kind of transport, right, the meaning of why we're here to a higher kind of story. And I think, again, this machine, it gives us also this same ability to kind of transport ourselves, to something beyond, right? So I think this fascination is a very old fascination. Now we're calling it kind of high-tech technology, but this is like this basic instinct that has been with us for a very long time. So for me, it's interesting to, while looking forward for what's happening, it's also kind of all the time looking back at what are we kind of as a species, right? And kind of connecting these two things together. And obviously doing this in the Tower of David with all these kind of, so many stones with so many different layers of stories, and being able to kind of adding another story of our own to it, really creates this interesting meeting and intersection. So I think it kind of really raises questions. Yeah. So it's less of a straight answer. It's more of, I think, questions that are being raised.
Well, thank you. We have some questions here, in fact. So I'll open them to all three of you. So 999, whoever 999 is, thank you for your questions. Surely the origin of design and thought comes into play as it does in copyright law. Isn't AI using all of digital art as its source?
So I think, first of all, there is very big copyright issues. Like I said, these data sets are scraping the internet for information and actually not paying any royalties. This is also kind of the state of the internet today. I mean, you look at Google and Facebook, they have loads of content and no one is getting royalties. So this is not a new thing. This is a problem in my mind. And again, it's hard to say as a clear, simplified sentence that AI is using all of digital art as its source. There's different data sets and they have different image banks. So kind of each company, each algorithm, each model with its own data set, its own image bank. Yeah.
What are the origins? Follow-up question is, what are the origins? Doron.
Yeah, I think we have to realize most of the people who build these tools don't think about art. Art is not their killer application or their main original application. So artists are indeed one of the first audiences to play with these tools, as Yair mentioned. But when a company spent that, it's like, okay, let's generate faces because we can make a lot of money by having deep fake or just images and make processes more efficient, etc., etc. So like the artists take it. Most of AI art, I think, takes tools that have not been intended for AI art, and then they add some added value as artists, and which raises a good question of what the art. I mean, we can take a famous case study. There was this French group. One of the most famous stories is, I think 5 years ago, was sold in an auction, this painting made by a gun, which I don't remember exactly, but something in the range of €500,000, which is quite a lot of money. And so again, I can think about at least 4. Yeah, there's the data set, the original data set. Nobody got credit for that. I mean, they didn't share their profit with his audience. Then there was the person who invented the algorithm, which was credited because there was a signature of the algorithm on the painting, but the IP didn't belong to the algorithm, not to the code. The code of the painting was given by this young hacker. So the artists didn't contribute the data, they didn't contribute the algorithm, they didn't even contribute the computer code. They just generated an image and said this is art and sold it. And as far as I know, nobody had a problem that they own the IP or that whatever, the fee for this art. So I'm sure it's a complicated, I'm sure it's a very complicated, a lot of job for lawyers, but
exactly.
Yeah.
Some answers are trying to come today. 2 days ago, OpenAI announced that the images you generate belongs to you, but it's nothing if you are waiting to see what lawyers will do later on. I remember some month ago, OpenAI explained that they found that if they have the same picture many times in the data set, the computer might just reproduce this picture one to one, or at least a very similar picture. So they started to clean their own data sets. And these things will keep on rising while we learn these new technologies.
And another interesting question, which is also alluded to in the last question. So I think on the one hand, I think these tools are amazing. And I think, as I said, we even have creative AI for quite some time. But I don't think, so for me, it would be like the next step, which is very far away, is when an AI would create art, even though it's not designed to create AI at all, art at all. So imagine, I would be really astonished when an autonomous car would say, okay, by the way, I made this painting. Okay, now we're not there yet. So I don't think we should worry about AI rights on their creations, okay? For now, I think it's still the people. Now, if you have an AI that's designed to, I don't know, do some, and of course, I as an engineer can design such an AI that as an artifact will make painting, but that's not interesting enough. I want to see it as a real, well, like we think it is for humans. And, you know, like animals, okay, animals, I don't know if they make art, but some animals play, which is like completely useless from an evolutionary point of view, right? But so, you know, you see not only monkeys and dogs, but also very, very simple animals just have fun. I mean, you look at it from the outside and you're like, there's no, why are they doing it other than having fun? So for me, play and art are similar in that way. When I see these AI studying just for fun, okay, I have some cycle time on my GPU, let's make a painting. That's going to be interesting, out of their own volition. We're not there yet.
Then again, there is something really nice and almost funny that the so-called robots coming from the robota in the Russian is work. We are all the time waiting for them to replace us at work and doing everything easier. And meanwhile, they are writing text and painting. Next, they will go into vacations, and we are working. We are still working.
We are doing the work, and they're having all the fun.
Yeah, there was a competition. This has come up from a question that somebody sent me, but there was a competition in the Colorado State Fair where actually it was for emerging artists, and it was an AI generated art piece that won the competition, and traditional artists were very upset with that outcome. Do you know in Israel if there are conversations and cooperations going with traditional artists and the AI world? Is that happening in Israel?
So I think it's like very much in its basic kind of stages. Also, there's not a lot of I'd say in a way, like proper AI artists that kind of really know how to deal with the models and the data sets. Obviously, it's slowly something that is rising, but I still think it's like maybe two handfuls. So I think it's really kind of still preliminary. Also, I'll just say kind of on a side note, I mean, a lot of these technologies and in Israel are really pointed to very certain and not as much creative uses, at least in my mind, right? So it can be, I mean, from weapons to products, but it's less now these kind of open-ended uses.
No, but it's a good idea. I think when I started teaching this course a few years ago, it was a little difficult. Today, if you want to organize like a workshop for artists, I think you don't need to be too technical, and you can start
very easily,
like hands-on for like people who want to get into this. I think it's very timely.
Well, I can see that we're coming to the end. So I want to take this opportunity to thank Yair as Artistic Director of ZERO1NE, pulling together the panel with Professor Doron Friedman and Dr. Elad Yaron. For me, it's been fascinating finding out more about this, the tension, the gap in between, as we said, the natural and the artificial, and the blurry lines that are now mixing these two spaces together. And I really want to thank everyone that's joined us from all over the world. I know that we've got from here, the UK, the USA, Guatemala, and I'm Israel. So thank you very much to all our friends that have been with us. It's been really, really great to share this space. We hope that you'll be able to come to the festival next year, physically here. But this is a great way to learn more, and we hope that we'll be doing more of these Join the Conversations in the near future. So again, many, many thanks.